Have you ever looked back at your former self and thought, wow, I no longer do that, and I didn't even realize when I stopped? If you have experienced a spiritual awakening or are just beginning to embark on that journey, you may have discovered that you have quietly let go of certain things without much effort. It is not as if you made a conscious decision to quit. They simply faded away. It feels as if your soul has gradually outgrown them, and one day you looked around and recognized that you were living differently. Today, I want to discuss 6 things you might have quietly released after awakening without even being aware of it. As I explore these, you might find yourself thinking, oh my God, that is exactly what happened to me. The changes are subtle yet powerful. They reveal how much you have grown. By the end of this discussion, you will have a better understanding of yourself and perhaps even feel a bit lighter, knowing that you are not alone on this journey. So, let us dive in. 1. Trying to please everyone. Before your awakening, you might not have even realized how much of your time and energy was devoted to making others happy. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You remained silent to avoid conflict and did things that did not resonate with you just to maintain peace. Deep down, you may have believed that your worth depended on how others perceived you, and so you worked hard to be liked, accepted, and approved. You wore masks, altered your tone, and concealed your true thoughts, all for the comfort of others. However, after awakening, that pattern starts to shift. You begin to recognize the heavy toll of being a people pleaser. Almost unconsciously, you stop conforming to others' molds. You begin to assert yourself, set boundaries, and honor your feelings, not in an aggressive manner, but in a calm, steady way that communicates, my peace matters. 2. No longer do you feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. You no longer crave validation as you once did. While some individuals may not appreciate this new version of you, that is perfectly fine. You come to realize that you were not born to live someone else's life, but to live your own truth, which requires no one's permission. 2. Needing constant distractions. Prior to your awakening, silence may have felt uncomfortable. Stillness could have made you feel restless, as if something was missing. Unbeknownst to you, you filled every empty moment with distractions. You reached for your phone every few minutes, even when nothing new was available. You constantly needed some form of entertainment, playing in the background, music, television, YouTube, anything to avoid facing your thoughts. You might have even felt anxious without something to engage with. But deep down, all that noise was just a method of escaping yourself. Gradually, without even trying, you began to embrace quietude. You started lowering the volume of the outside world to listen to what was happening internally. You found joy in simple moments, sitting in nature, watching the sky, or sipping tea in silence. You no longer required constant entertainment because you were no longer running from your own energy. You were learning to coexist with it. You realized that peace is found not in constant stimulation, but in being present. Being present does not mean doing nothing. It means being fully engaged, fully awake, even during the simplest moments. That is when you no longer need constant distractions, because you finally feel safe within yourself. 3. Judging yourself and others. Before your awakening, judgment may have come naturally to you. You constantly scrutinized yourself, your appearance, your speech, your success, or whether you were good enough. That inner critic was always present, highlighting your flaws, comparing you with others, and making you feel you had to constantly improve just to be acceptable. Simultaneously, you might have judged others, not out of malice, but because that is what society tends to teach us. We often label, compare, and criticize frequently without even realizing it. However, after awakening, something in you softens. That inner critic does not vanish completely, but it loses its power. You begin to notice your judgments without becoming those judgments. You start to ask deeper questions, such as, where did this belief originate? Or, why am I so hard on myself? You begin to extend compassion to yourself instead of criticism, and without significant effort, that compassion naturally extends to others. You begin to see people as souls on their own journeys, just like yours. You understand that judgment creates division, while compassion fosters connection. This simple shift from judgment to understanding is a subtle yet powerful sign of personal awakening. 4. Forcing life to conform to your expectations. Before your awakening, you might have thought that if you merely planned carefully enough, worked diligently enough, or tried harder, life would unfold as you desired. You likely had a mental image of how everything should appear: your job, relationships, goals, and even your timeline for success. When life did not align with that vision, frustration ensued. You may have blamed yourself, panicked, or tried to exert more control. The unknown felt threatening, and surrender appeared as if you were giving up. However, after awakening, a significant shift occurs. You come to realize that control is merely an illusion. You stop pushing so hard and cease trying to force people or situations to meet your expectations. Instead, you begin to allow things to unfold. You learn to flow with life rather than resist it. You still take action, but now it comes from a place of calm trust rather than fear or desperation. You let go of the need to have every step mapped out ahead of time, accepting that not everything is meant to be understood immediately. In this process of letting go, things start to fall into place organically. Life feels less like a struggle and more like a dance. 5. Chasing external validation. Do you remember when you relied on others to affirm your worth? When their opinions could either elevate you or bring you down? Perhaps you posted something online and repeatedly checked to see who liked it, or sought approval from family, friends, or colleagues. After awakening, that relentless craving begins to subside. Not because you suddenly no longer care, but because you have started to recognize your intrinsic worth. You have begun to validate yourself. You no longer need applause to feel acknowledged. You stop diminishing yourself to fit into someone else's conception of who you should be. You now understand that true confidence is not loud, it is quiet and arises from the peace of knowing you are doing your best, being true to yourself, and growing every day, regardless of external recognition. The beauty of this transformation is that when you cease chasing validation, you naturally attract people and circumstances that honor the authentic you, rather than the facade you once presented. 6. Running away from your emotions. Prior to awakening, you may have feared your own feelings: sadness, anger, fear. You pushed them down, distracted yourself, and encouraged yourself to stay positive or be strong. Yet deep down, you were emotionally drained. After awakening, something profound shifts within you. You stop running and numbing your feelings. Instead, you begin to truly experience everything that arises: the joy, the pain, the confusion, the peace. You cry without shame and contemplate your sadness. You breathe through your fear. The remarkable aspect of this journey is that your emotions cease to control you. Once you permit yourself to feel fully, the energy of those emotions shifts. you realize that emotions are not enemies. They are messages integral to your human experience. They do not come to harm you. They come to teach you. You did not suddenly decide one day to become emotionally mature. It simply unfolded as your soul grew stronger. Now, emotions come and go, yet you remain centered. That is true emotional freedom. Having discussed these 6 aspects, trying to please everyone, needing distractions, constant judgment, forcing control, chasing validation, and avoiding emotions, I want to remind you of something crucial. You did not give up these habits as sacrifices. Rather, you outgrew them. They fell away because they no longer resonated with your energy. Your awakening does not involve transforming into someone else. It is about rediscovering who you truly are, beyond the noise, the fear, and the conditioning. That is why these elements faded quietly. Your soul was merely returning home. So, if you find yourself gradually relinquishing old habits, shedding old identities, or distancing yourself from outdated patterns, trust that you are not broken. You are not lost, you are awakening. Sometimes, the most significant changes occur in the quietest ways. Thank you for being here, for developing, and for engaging in this profound inner work, even when it is challenging. You are not alone on this path, and if this message resonated with you, just know that your soul already recognized it. I merely reinforced it. Stay grounded, stay awake, and continually return to your truth. You are doing better than you think.